Thank you so much for joining us on this webinar. We hope to provide you with useful tips on the application and selection process. My name is Chelsea Ridenauer, and we also have Becky Zook on the call. Before we begin with the top 10 tips, I would first like to give a brief overview of who we are. The Fulbright Classroom Teacher Exchange Program is sponsored by the U.S. Department of State, Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs. Our organization is the Institute of International Education, and we are responsible for administering the Fulbright Classroom Teacher Exchange Program. So our team has come up with the 10 most important tips for a successful application, and we will go through the presentation and pause periodically for questions. So please type in your questions that you may have in the bottom right-hand question box. And certainly, without a doubt, we will have more questions than we're able to answer today. So we have actually recruited a few of our Fulbright teacher alumni, and they're going to be able to answer any unanswered questions all next week. So if you're interested in connecting with alumni, send me an email at fulbrightcte@iie.org, and I will be able to personally connect you with one of our alumna or alumnus. And you must send me an email by Wednesday, October 10th. And then you'll have a week to communicate with alumni. They'll be able to answer any questions you might have about the application process, and you can even ask them detailed questions about their time abroad. So we really hope you take advantage of this exciting opportunity. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started with the top 10 tips. Tip number 1 is work with your administrators. The majority of questions we receive from applicants are related to teachers having problems explaining the program to their administrators at the school and district levels. We strongly encourage applicants to work closely with their principal and the district office throughout the application process. Specifically, we encourage teachers to fill out the school support section seen here of the application with their principal and/or administrator. And many of your administrators will have questions about the incoming teacher. They'll want to know how they're selected and the role of the district once they're in the U.S. So the international teachers are interviewed and evaluated in an extensive vetting process by our international partners. Our international partners are Fulbright commissions and posts abroad, ministries of education, and other international partner organizations. The international Fulbright teachers who are selected for this program are highly qualified classroom teachers. So, the selected U.S. Fulbright teachers are reflective of our top teachers in our country, and this is exactly the same for the international Fulbright teachers. It's also important for your administrators to know that they are encouraged to reach out to the proposed international Fulbright teacher and conduct a phone interview once a match is proposed. Without a doubt, your administrators will ask you about teaching licenses and credentials for the international teacher. And our organization, IIE, will work with the U.S. school, the host district, and the international Fulbright teacher to help with the process of attaining any of these documents. So licenses, credentials, or even transcripts. And the need for these documents really varies by each state, school, and district. So there's really not a one-size-fits-all approach that we can provide for applicants. But just know that our program has had teachers from every state in the United States, and we have worked with many schools to facilitate the placement of international teachers. I guess the biggest thing is we encourage you to work with your administrators and help them to think beyond the teaching credential issue for the time being. And just let them know that this is a process that we are accustomed to and one that is commonly asked about by applicants. Tip number 2, take control of your administrative approval form. The administrative approval form is required for a completed application. You must print this form before you submit your application. So once you submit your application, you cannot go back in and print. So just be sure to do that. This form should be returned to you in a sealed envelope signed across the back by your administrator. And we recommend that teachers take control of sending this form via post to IIE. So essentially, if you are in control of mailing it, You know exactly when it was sent, not when you think your administrator sent it. And remember, this form should be signed by someone at the district level who has the opportunity to grant you leave with salary for the exchange. For public schools, this is typically the district superintendent or the director of human resources for the district. By signing, they also agree to accept the incoming international Fulbright teacher in the U.S. teacher's place for the academic semester or year. So once this form is received by IIE, we upload it into our system, and you can track it in your application under the references section. And we'll talk more about how you track that later on in the webinar. Tip number 3, details, details, details. So whenever possible in the application, we ask that you provide as much detail as possible. We want you to paint us a picture of your school, your students, your community. You know, what classes do you teach? Is your teaching schedule flexible? Do you team teach? What is the makeup of your students? What are the challenges that you face? Give details about your school administration, the colleagues in your department. Indicate what kind of support the incoming Fulbright teacher should expect to receive from your department and the greater school. Are they willing to help support an international teacher? What is a typical day like for you at school? We essentially want your skills to match the skills of the international partner. So the more information and details that you can provide us with in your application, the more likely it is that you will move from being a recommended candidate to a matched candidate. Okay, so we'll pause here for a couple minutes to see if anyone has any questions about tips 1, 2, and 3. It looks like we have a couple of questions. Okay, so the question is the school start and end dates, and I would provide the school start and end dates for the 2013-2014 school year. So yes, the year that impacts the exchange. Another question we have coming in, what percentage of teachers typically get matched? Basically, you know, this year is a little bit different because it's an online application, so we have quite a bit more teachers applying. But in the past, we've had about 200 applications, and that's it's between 40 and 50 teachers that are matched. So it's not really a percentage, but more numbers. Okay, we'll take one last question before we move on, and this question is about the providing as much detail as possible. And this is asked, should this information about school be put in the essay? Yes, it can be put in your essay. It also can be put in the school support section of your application, in your daily teaching schedule. Wherever there's a spot for you to elaborate in a long answer question, I would do that. We'll go ahead and pause there. I know that there are still a lot of questions coming in, but for the sake of time, we do need to move on. So if we didn't get to your question, please email fulbrightcte@iie.org, and I will be able to respond promptly with an answer for you. Tip number 4, be tech savvy. For those of you that are still working on the application, here are a few tips to remember as you finish up. Save often. Be sure to watch the timer at the top of the application. It is recommended that for long answer questions, you type them first in a word processing program and then copy and paste. We also strongly encourage applicants to check for completion and preview their application before submitting. And these functions will allow you to see any errors you may have made and make edits before you submit. And remember, once you submit, you cannot go back in and make changes. When you preview the application, we also recommend that you save a PDF copy for your personal files. Tip number 5, keep your eyes on your references. Our application requires 3 references, 1 from your immediate supervisor and 2 professional references. And all 3 of these references must be submitted through the online system. Once you send the automated emails to your references, you should follow up with them individually. You know, these types of automated emails often end up in the recipient's spam or junk folder. So make sure that you tell your references that the email request comes from fulbrightcte@iie.org. We strongly recommend that you track your references through the online application system. So what you do is you log into your application and you go to the references section to see whether or not your references have been submitted. So you can see here, this is the reference status and whether or not it was mailed, emailed, or submitted. And this section of the application also allows you to resend the email. And so it's your responsibility to keep your eyes on this section of the application, and if your references haven't completed the form, you should follow up with them before the October 15th application deadline. And then also on this screen, you'll see that this is where you can tell when your administrative approval form has been uploaded. So again, just keep your eyes on this section because you'll be able to keep track of your references and when we receive the admin approval form. We often receive emails from references when they have difficulties logging into the reference module, and errors often happen when references attempt to retype the login and password into the fields. So if your references ask you for advice, inform them they should copy and paste the login and password from their automated email, and making sure not to copy and paste an extra space. And again, if your references continue having problems, please have them email or call IIE. The best phone number is 202-326-7774, and I am more than happy to walk them through the process. Tip number 6, be patient with the process. Please know that our organization, IIE, works tirelessly with our partners to select the best applicants for the program, and we really ask for your patience. So here is a brief overview of the application and selection process to help put your nerves at ease for the time being. Following the October 15th deadline, our organization, IIE, our staff will screen all applications for basic eligibility and completeness. All eligible and complete applicants will move on to the interview and evaluation stage conducted all over the U.S. by peer review panels. These peer review panels are composed of Fulbright teacher alumni, K-12 educators, and academics. Eligible applicant interviews take place in late November through early December. And then in early January, we will notify U.S. applicants of their status following the interview and whether or not they will be considered for a match with an international teacher. So then throughout January and March in 2013, we'll work closely with our program partners at the U.S. Department of State and other international partner organizations to conduct the matching process of the U.S. and international teachers. The process to confirm the best suitable match between a U.S. and an international teacher involves many, many factors, including, the profile of the school, the teaching subjects, levels and ages of students, demographics, and the professional compatibility between proposed schools and teachers. And then finally, in late March to mid-April, recommended U.S. teachers will be notified if they have been proposed for a match with an international teacher. And it's at this time in the process that U.S. teachers will talk with their administrators and their principals about the proposed international teacher. Administrators and principals working with IIE will then have the opportunity to interview the international Fulbright teacher via phone or Skype. And once all parties agree on the proposed teacher on the U.S. and the international side, and once the teachers are approved by the Fulbright Foreign Scholarship Board, a Fulbright teacher match is made. Okay, so we'll go ahead and pause here again to see if anyone has any questions. If you could keep your questions to tips 4, 5, and 6, that would be great, and we can save kind of general questions for the end. So let's take a look and see what has come in. Okay, so we do have a few questions coming in about the last few tips, so I'll let Becky go ahead and ask the questions, and I'll respond so you all can hear.
All right, the first question that I'm seeing here, is there a way to see what our references have written on our behalf?
And this information is not available for you. Typically with the reference process, it's done for us and for us to see, so we recommend that you provide references that you think would give, a stellar recommendation or a good recommendation for you. It's not something that we're able to share with you.
Second, does the admin form have to be received or postmarked by October 15th?
The administrative approval form does have to be received by October 15th. If for some reason there's a delay or your administrator can't meet with you after that date, please call me or email me and we can talk about making arrangements for that. But yes, everything must be received by October 15th.
And how long after IIE receives the admin approval form will it be acknowledged online?
Okay, so again, the admin approval form is sent in the mail. This is not through the online system. So the admin approval form should be mailed in by you. So your administrator returns the form back to you in a sealed envelope signed across the back. You then mail it in to us at 1400 K Street. Basically what will happen is we will review it, we scan it in, and we upload it into our system. So it should be, upon receival, it should be 1 or 2 days for us to upload it. You will hear from us if there's something wrong with the admin approval form. So if it's missing a signature or they didn't check the correct box, you'll get an email from me or from Fulbright CTE letting you know that, hey, we need an updated form. Okay, so we'll go ahead and keep going. And again, if there are any questions that we didn't get to, just please send them to fulbrightcte@iie.org, and hopefully we can answer some more at the very end. Tip number 7, think beyond your country preferences. Would you be willing to teach in a country that you did not list in your application? We recommend that teachers be flexible with your country preferences. You know, flexibility and country preference will stretch you to make the most of your experience. This is true during the application process and if you are selected to be matched with an international teacher. Having an open mind in country preference will make you a more competitive applicant. Tip number 8, keep your friends close and the Fulbright Teacher Exchange Program closer. We ask that you keep in contact with our team at IIE throughout the application and selection process. We want to know if there are major changes in your application, such as a new teaching assignment, a new principal, or a change in school. You should also contact us if you need to withdraw your application at any point in the application process. Tip number 9, be inspired by current Fulbright teachers. Stay up to date on what's happening with current Fulbright teachers through our website, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Check out pictures, read success stories, and watch videos about the program. Be inspired by these teachers and realize that they are teachers just like you. They may even be from your hometown. If they can do it, you can do it. And finally, our last tip, tip number 10, go for it. Finish and submit your application. Our last tip is to remember that you are in the home stretch. We know that the application can seem daunting, but the results of this program are invaluable. All of the teachers on this webinar are at least 50% complete with the application. You are almost there, and the application deadline is still 10 days away. We encourage you to go for it and finish your application. The Fulbright Teacher Exchange Program is an equal opportunity program. You never know. You could be the next Fulbright teacher to India. Remember, the application closes on October 15th, 2012 at 12 a.m. midnight Central Standard Time or 1 a.m. Eastern Time. Application, references, and administrative approval form all must be received by this time. Remember, if you would like to connect with alumni, please email fulbrightcte@iie.org by Wednesday, October 10, and I will then personally connect you with a Fulbright teacher alumna or alumnus who can answer your questions. You will then have 1 week to email the selected alumni with your questions. Okay, and at this time we'll go ahead and take any general questions that you may have about the webinar or outstanding questions you may have about the application. And again, just please type them in, and Becky and I will take a look at what we have, and I'll come back and list off a few that I think would be great. Okay, so it looks like to start we have a few questions about the interview and selection process. Okay, so one of the questions is about the content of the interview. Is it more a confirming process or is it a vetting process? It absolutely is a vetting process for us. The peer review panels are conducted by several U.S. Fulbright teacher alumni, like I said, academics, K-12 educators all across the United States, and these peer review panels are placed by region. and you will be called by them. It will not be an in-person interview, but it will be via phone. And typically it's just, they want to know why you decided to apply. So definitely highlight your passions, highlight why you want to go abroad, highlight your time in the classroom and why you want to expand upon that. So it definitely is a vetting process and one that I would take very seriously. And then there's another question about, so it's again clarifying if you're matched and selected in January. So what happens in January is we'll notify you of the results of the interview. So at that point you'll know if you are not moving on to the matching process or if you are. If you're moving on to the matching process, this does not mean that you are automatically being proposed for a match. What it means is your information is being brought to the table with the other international partner organizations and you're brought up as an option. So basically there's, the matching phase and then the selection phase. So I hope that kind of clarifies that. It looks like we also have a few more specific questions on the application. Okay, so one of the questions is about matching the international teachers with the U.S. teachers. So this question is, does Fulbright attempt to match teachers with a school that mirrors the demographics of their home school? Or is it the goal of the committee to provide a varied experience for that participant? That's a great question. So basically, we are really trying to find a near perfect match for you overseas. So this means that, yes, we're looking at your daily teaching schedule, we're looking at your school environment, your school demographics, your surrounding community. All of these factors play a very important role in the matching phase. We want you to be able to integrate into the international classroom, and vice versa. We want the international teacher to be able to integrate into your classroom. So trying to find a teacher that has your similar background, who teaches similar subjects, who comes from, whether it's a rural or urban community, we want to find that person for you abroad. So yes, of course, it always does depend on the available pool of international applicants as well. One of these questions is about the education section. It asks for certification and degrees. And the question is, would the certification only be for those received outside of a degree versus as part of a teaching degree? And I would say that you should list, it's really up to you how you would like to list that, but primarily we are looking for the certification outside of a degree, but if there's something relevant to your classroom or to your background that you want to include, you can include it as a standalone, absolutely. So that's definitely something that you can kind of use your judgment and take control on that. Okay, so we'll take just a few more questions here before we wrap up. A couple of these questions are about, tendency to favor certain applicants based on families, based on previous experience, etc. Basically, these factors do play a role, but it's not necessarily being favored or unfavored in the process. Many of our teachers prefer to take their families with them, and this does not negatively impact them or positively impact them for that matter. It simply is part of the information in their application. But definitely include that. If you want to take your family, that's something that we need to know in the matching phase for matching you with a specific international teacher as well. So another question is about favoring applicants that have already had international experience or who have taught overseas. Again, this is not something that impacts negatively but it certainly shows that you have been abroad, you can adapt, all of those things. I would bring that up in your interview. By the same token, I would absolutely not feel nervous or worried if you never have been abroad, because we do look upon that highly as well, because this program is also for people who have never been abroad before. We're looking for that fresh perspective of people who can go abroad, who've never been abroad before, and bring it back. So again, it's not necessarily a positive or a negative, but definitely include that information because it's great for us to know either way. Okay, so the last question is again about references. So it says, on the reference status page, my references all say mailed, but not submitted. I'm assuming that means that they have been contacted but have not completed the reference. Is this correct? Yes, this is correct. So mailed means that the email has been sent to them. But again, you need to check with your references because a lot of times that email will get sent to their spam or junk folder. So follow up with them, or even better yet, follow up with them and resend it to their personal email. Only when it says submitted is when it has been submitted on our end. But again, just feel free to let them contact us if they're having issues logging in. We're definitely more than happy to help. Okay, so I think that concludes the question and answer session. And again, if there's any outstanding questions or if you have a very specific question that we weren't able to get to, please email or call me, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. So to close, we are going to invite you to watch a short video about the Fulbright Classroom Teacher Exchange Program. So best of luck with your application, and thank you very much for your time.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Ventimiglia, and I'm from Detroit, Michigan, and I am a Fulbright exchange teacher. I was living in Washington, D.C. and teaching at Paul Public Charter School. Now I'm teaching here in Prague at Lendinska. I'm teaching 5th through 9th grade English and Spanish. I also have an English media club. I've been having a wonderful time, so let's go on in and have a look. To be or not to be? That is the question. I know we're going to use our body a little bit because now we're going to be or not to be? That is the question. I am nothing old back rubber chips, nothing character red. And to be or not to be? That is the question. The activities that we do are part of the classes. For example, I believe in project-based learning, so with each class that I have, every lesson that we do builds up to a big project. So most recently, it was a Shakespeare festival. So with my 6th, 7th, and 8th grade English classes, we spent about a month learning about Shakespeare's language and doing duels of Shakespearean insults and learning about the plots of the stories, and it culminated in a festival where the students were performing their works for each other. For me, it's all about getting the students to use the language, but also to incorporate these 21st century skills that we've been hearing so much about. So the idea is to backwards plan. So I think about what I want my students to be able to accomplish by the end of the unit, and then I start planning each lesson to lead them up until that point. For example, before the Shakespeare unit, we did a poetry slam, and so I knew that my final output would be the students would perform at a poetry slam. But how am I going to get them there? What skills do they need in order to reach that point? So I collaborated with another teacher at Jana Nerudi Gymnasium, and we planned different lessons together so that our students would be doing the same activities at the same time. Yeah, I think wherever you're going, the idea is always to keep an open mind and to really get to know people and the resources. I feel like just in the short time I've been here, I've met so many wonderful, dedicated people. And it seems like once you meet one person, you meet several more that are really interested in the same things. In my case, it's with improving the education system. So there's many opportunities, and I think the more open mind that you have, the more people you'll meet, and the more you'll be able to accomplish the goals that you set for yourself during the time here.
Thank you all very much again for your time. If you'd like to connect with an alumna or alumnus, please email fulbrightcte@iie.org by Wednesday, October 10. And again, I just really encourage you to take advantage of this opportunity. It'll just give you a real life experience of what they went through. So please take advantage of it. And then of course, any outstanding questions, please call or email me. Thank you again very much for your time.